Erick is currently the Vice President and Branch Manager for Charles Schwab in the Portland metro market and has been in the financial service industry for over 23 years. He supports a team of 26 people and oversees $18 billion in assets in the Portland and Vancouver markets. He is a certified financial planner and recently received his MBA from the University of Oregon Executive MBA program. He is active in his community by being involved with the Oregon Public Radio, the Multnomah Athletic Club, and the Lift Up Food Bank. So with that, I will pass things over to Erick.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Shannon. I really appreciate it. Let me go ahead and share my slides. And thanks for that very kind introduction. I really appreciate it. Let me start here. All right. So again, my name is Erick Ibarra. I'm branch manager here in the Portland and Vancouver markets. And so as I got to know Shannon here over the last few months, we were kind of talking about paths to success. And, you know, in the end, everyone has a journey to get to a specific point, whether it be a personal or professional journey. And so having done this now for 23 years and started as a junior in college, I would say it's probably pretty safe to say that I've had a little bit of a journey, and I want to have an opportunity to share it with you so you can kind of learn what it's like in the industry, what I feel is important. And so that's why I kind of titled this as A Path to Success, but it's not necessarily the path to success because I think everyone has their own path to create. And so to kind of talk a little bit about agenda, I love talking about agendas or setting them up because it really kind of focuses me on what I want to make sure that we get out of our 60 minutes together. I want to talk a little bit about what I expect of this group, also hopefully what you expect of me, a little bit about myself, my role, my mission, the 4 pillars of partnership, and what do I look for in talent. So what you should expect from me is I'm not going to hold anything back. I will tell you what I think about the business. I do represent Schwab, but in the end, I'm a firm believer that frankness is the best policy. I also think I can really describe what it will take for you to be wildly successful in any role that you take, whether it be in the financial service industry or any role, and we can talk a little bit about that. And then also my commitment is I'm going to give you 150% in this presentation. What I expect from the team that we have here in this group, this digital team, I guess, is I expect you to be present. I expect you to challenge your ways of how you think about things. And I also expect you to ask questions. And Shannon's been really clear on how to ask those questions. So if you have a question, don't wait until the end. Just throw it up there, and Shannon will interrupt me. I've already let her know. I'm like, if I'm talking, just interrupt me. I want to make sure that we're addressing your concerns because in the end, this is your time. This is about you, and I want to make sure that I'm supporting your success. So a little bit about myself, and Shannon did a thank you for the intro. I was born in San Jose. My parents were immigrants. They came in the 70s. My first language was Spanish, so had a little bit of difficulty at the beginning of my educational career, just learning English because that's all I knew was Spanish. I started in this business as a junior in college. I was about 20 years old, and now 23 years later, I have an opportunity to run one of the largest branches for Charles Schwab. Again, I have a team of about 26 people that I support. I'm proud to say that we have 11 certified financial planners on staff and 1 CFA, which is a chartered financial analyst position. We have more people taking the CFP, and we have more CFPs in our branch than any other branch for Charles Schwab in the entire country. Over the last 6 years, we have grown in this branch from about a $9 billion branch to about an $18.3 billion branch. And I've had the honor to support that success of my team. And so it's been super exciting. I would be lying to you if it wasn't extremely stressful at times. because you really do care about your team. But it's been a lot of fun, and I love coming to work, and I'm super passionate about it. And so, you know, there are times where I probably work a little too much, but I really enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. And in the end, I get to do a job where I get to help people and serve people, which is something I'm super passionate about. The what? So, you know, many people always ask me, like, well, Erick, what is it that you do day in and day out? One of my many roles that I have here is I help clients, individual clients. I help individual families, I help corporations and nonprofits. I help them build their wealth, generate income from their wealth. I help them preserve their wealth, and then transfer their wealth in the most tax-efficient manner to their charities, heirs, or organizations of their choice while they're living or if they pass. So that's really kind of at the very highest level what we do here at Schwab. I also am a certified financial planner, so I do enter into quite a bit of planning-based conversations with clients, and then also supporting my financial consultants in any planning-based conversations. Another big thing that I do is I earn trust of clients in treating them in an ethical, empathetic, and proactive way. You know, clients or prospective clients or clients that come in, they spend 10, 20, 30 years building this nest egg. And we ask them, and we ask them for the opportunity and the honor to support them and to help them manage their wealth. And the great thing at Schwab is we have so many programs here at Schwab. Some have a fee attached to it. Some have a fee attached to it. But we do have a wide range of ways we can help clients. And in the end, the client is always at the driver's seat. I can be a co-pilot, or one of my financial consultants can be a co-pilot. But in the end, the client is in charge. It's their money. My job is to make sure that we are driving them toward, helping them drive towards success. And if they're not, we let them know. Another thing that I do here is manage risk. So at Schwab, I do have what's called the Series 9 and a Series 10, which gives me supervision authority and an ability to assess risk and make decisions based upon risk, whether it be trading risk, risk on whether or not we want to take on a relationship and what that looks like. And so the great thing is I have great partners to rely on, to making sure that if I do come into something that I'm unsure about, I can leverage my partners. And we're going to talk a little bit about partnerships because I think they're really important. Another thing that I really love about Schwab, or what I do day in and day out, is I'm constantly improving that client experience through having what we call a challenger mindset. So we're always asking, well, why do we have this process? Why do we have this technology? Is there something better out there? And we have opportunities to talk to executives and folks that are working on some of our back-end channels and our technology to make those changes. And so I'll give you an example. I have no hesitation as a branch manager or any of my employees to call an executive and saying, hey, there's something wrong. We need to make an adjustment on something in particular. And here's what it is. And here's the business case behind it. And so it really excites me to be able to have an opportunity to talk to anyone. And I think we have like about 21 to 22,000 employees. I can essentially call anyone up and saying, listen, I think we need to make an adjustment here. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen, but they will listen to me. And so as far as a leadership or a communication, there's not much of a hierarchy. It's pretty flat. I can reach out to anyone I want in order to make sure that we're really supporting our clients. A big part of what I do is also coach my team. I'm coaching my team every single day on situations. They're coming to me for advice and guidance on how we should approach a certain situation, whether it be a nonprofit, a family that has interesting dynamics that we need to address, and then also kind of be that whiteboard of, hey, well, how do we want to make sure that we approach this client in an empathetic way in order to make sure they're well supported and we set proper expectations with them moving forward? And what partners do we want to make sure that we bring in order to have the best outcome, right? And so one thing I learned very early in my career is I can't know everything, I cannot do everything, but what I can do is develop great partnerships with people in order to make sure that I'm wildly successful and the client's wildly successful. So that next one is developing partnerships. I would not be or my team would not be as successful as it is today without using proper partnerships. And it's something that we do day in and day out. We're obsessed about. It's extremely important. And so when things aren't working where they need to be, we address it. We're going to talk a little bit about that in another slide. Another aspect of my role is I hire folks. I hire people for specific roles in the branch. And I also help hire folks for other roles outside of my branch, whether it be in our other branches throughout the U.S. or in one of our hubs. We have hubs in San Francisco, Phoenix, Denver, Westlake, Texas, Indianapolis, and Orlando. So for the most part, we have a hub in every time zone. And that's why when you call Schwab, you're going to be able to talk to someone here in the U.S. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they usually pick up the phone within like 2 or 3 rings. And they'll be licensed to help a specific client out for whatever reason. And lastly, one of my responsibilities is to be a good steward of our brand and our stockholder value. As a shareholder and also as a brand ambassador, I represent Charles Schwab, and so do every single one of my employees here in the Portland market. And so we want to make sure that we're always doing the right things for the right reasons at the right time. I'm proud to say that I believe that we support over 20 nonprofits here in the Portland market by just the individuals that are on the team. So when we're doing business planning, one of the questions that we talk to our team about, and everyone does business planning, whether you're on the support team or whether you're a financial consultant on more the kind of the sales team, is we ask you, what organizations are you passionate about or your clients passionate about that you may need support on or you'd like to support, and how do we go about really communicating our vision and our beliefs that align with their vision and their beliefs. And so it's extremely important that we go out there and support the community. So even though there are probably 3 ones that I'm really active on, I would say I'm almost active in every single one of the organizations that my team's active on, or I'm participating at some level, whether it be monetary or some of my time. But I think it's extremely important that we do that day in and day out. You know, in the end, I'm not here just to collect a paycheck, but I'm here to make the world a better place. And I do that through helping people build their wealth. So I'll just pause right there. Are there any questions on the what? And please chime in if you'd like.
Not seeing any yet, but if anybody has questions, feel free to pop them in Q&A.
Perfect. All right. So the why. So why do I do what I do? And believe it or not, many clients ask this question. They're like, well, you know, Erick, you have great products, you have great services, and so do a lot of other companies out there. You know, we don't have a corner on the market for good ideas or good service. But what I do think makes us different, or why I'm here, is one of the things that Chuck did over 40 years ago is what drove him crazy 40 years ago is that the average person in the U.S. could not get access to wealth management. It was way too expensive. and it was really a kind of a closed door to anyone that didn't have a tremendous amount of wealth. And so his big focus throughout the last 40 plus years was to democratize wealth management. And we do that through technology and scale, right? So someone can come into this office, walk into our branch and says, I have $50 to invest. How do I go about doing that? And we would be able to educate them through our website, seminars, our technology, our pretty cool app that we have, and be able to educate them and guide them into success. Having done this for 23 years, I have realized that the impact that you can have on someone by helping them build financial independence is astronomical. It's huge. And when you educate people on how to do that, it gets really exciting because all of a sudden they have a new view on what wealth can do for them, right? So it's not just about, I want to make as much money as possible, is how do I create stability in people's lives? How do I make sure that they have a plan in order to be successful, not only within their family, but a lot of times we talk about what does multi-generational wealth look like? So the great thing is I've had the opportunity to educate clients, educate their kids, and sometimes educate their grandkids about how to manage money. And it just doesn't mean stocks, bonds, and cash, but how to manage your debt properly. What is a good asset to own versus a bad asset to own, right? And as you can tell, I love to help people. I really felt that I've been put on this earth to serve others, and that's what I do every single day. And Schwab allots me the opportunity to kind of challenge that status quo. And so I'm constantly asking, why are we doing it this way? Every employee has a hand up and saying, well, why do we approach a certain situation this way? Why does this cost this versus something else? And so we have an opportunity at Schwab that we can always ask that why question. And clients, we look forward for clients to ask that question as well. And in the end, we make every decision for the benefit of the client. Now, a lot of companies say they do that, but having worked here at Schwab for 15 years now, I can truly, I could truly see it throughout our bottom line that we do make every we do make every decision for the benefit of the client, and in the end, it drives results and it drives revenue. And so, 40 years ago in our industry, you would have a situation where, to be quite frankly, even 10 or 15 years ago, is if you wanted something that was very complex, it would cost a lot of money, right? And again, most people did not have access to that ability to drive wealth management in a complex way. If you wanted something very inexpensive, to be quite frankly, there wasn't a lot of bells and whistles. And it was kind of on the opposite side of the spectrum. So you can get something super complex, very expensive, or something very simple, and it was very, very inexpensive. And to be quite frankly, it was cheap and probably didn't add a lot of value. Through technology in our process, we can develop complex wealth management solutions for clients at either no cost in certain situations if they're mainly self-directed, or for a very low fee, right? So our ability to scale wealth management, scale relationships, and continually drive costs is what makes us different, right? And so that's where I think there's a great opportunity. And so more and more, we are serving clients every day. Our ability to serve more clients at a lower cost and a lower threshold to entry goes down every day, which is great. And we do that through scalability and technology and improving our processes. So I'll take a pause and see if anyone has any questions.
Okay, so there's a question. So in your profession, what is the most common goal your clients come to you with?
That's a good question. I would say within the financial service industry, so it kind of depends. Depends on what. It kind of depends on where they're at in their life. But I think the biggest, at the very highest level, the question is, Erick, will I make it? Right? Will I make it? Will I be able to retire at the time that I'm planning on retiring? Will I be able to fund my children's college or my grandchildren's college? Will I run out of money? And so most of the time when people are asking those types of questions, they don't necessarily have a plan in place. And this is one thing that I encourage anyone that has an opportunity to open up an account, an investment account, is before you open up an account, first ask yourself, what is the goal for this money? It's amazing. I've sat down with clients that have significant wealth and they don't know, or it's not very clear for them, or they may have a spouse that has one goal and the other spouse has another goal, right? So it's so important to make sure that you have a plan in place. And so getting back to your original question, what is it that people ask the most of, or what's the biggest challenge that people have, is they don't know if they can accomplish the goals they have, and sometimes they actually don't even know if they have a very clear goal.
Awesome. That makes sense. So we have one more, and you can feel free to let us know if you're going to answer this at some point.
No, keep on going.
What trends are you anticipating for wealth management in the future?
Good question. I told Shannon to share this with the team. I cannot send this to you because it's not my article. It's not Schwab's article. Shannon, you know which one I'm talking about, that McKinsey?
Yep, I will share it with them after. Yep.
Okay. So McKinsey and Company came out with a new document that was out, I believe, in January, that talks about what wealth management is going to evolve to in the next 10 years. Shannon's going to share it with you. It's probably one of the coolest, let's see here, I don't know, about 10 pages. It is awesome. And so a few things that kind of jumped out at me is you're going to see hyper-personalization of wealth management, and that's going to be driven through technology. The face-to-face of an advisor is going to change. More and more, we're using technology like WebEx, and I know this is probably something you use quite a bit. But one thing from a historical standpoint about our industry is that it's slow to change, and to be quite frank, it just drives me absolutely bonkers because of the high regulatory environment that we're in. And so through technology and increasing times on processes, the way that we look at wealth management is going to drastically change. Another thing that I think is really important is the lack of diversity within the financial consultant role, right? So within Schwab, we do have quite a bit of diversity, more so than most companies do. But specifically for the financial consultant, our industry has a huge opportunity, and clients are demanding it more and more. And I think that's going to be a huge trend. Another trend that I talked a little bit about is the scale side of things. Clients are going to want to be able to have a relationship and understand what the process is for wealth management. They're also going to demand lower prices. When I started this business 23 years ago now, a stock trade could cost anywhere from $2,500 to $500. And now, over the last 6 months, Charles Schwab says, hey, this is actually no cost. There is no transaction cost. And so we're constantly driving down costs, but cost is going to continue to be a conversation for clients. And believe it or not, when I first started this business, people didn't ask about how much things cost. And now people are always asking, well, if I'm paying 1%, that means I'm making 1% less every single year. How do I make that up, or how do I address it? And so with the advent of exchange-traded funds about 20 or so years ago, there's a tremendous opportunity for people to come into the markets and really kind of own their wealth management story. There's also going to be an integration within this article about banking and wealth management. There used to be a wall between banking relationships and wealth management relationships. That wall came down about, I want to say about 18 years ago. And so now you're seeing banks and basically financial service firms merge and become one overall company. So I'll pause right there, but encourage everyone to read the McKinsey article. It's called On the Cusp of Change, North American Wealth Management in 2030, and it's by McKinsey & Company, and Shannon will send out a link for that.
Awesome, thank you. Just for everybody watching, remember you can go ahead and input questions in the Q&A box at any time. And with that, we'll let you get back, Eric, to your slides.
Okay, cool, awesome. All right, so I talked a little bit about partnerships, and it's something I'm obsessed about when it comes to helping clients. Because if my number one goal is to serve clients and serve my team, we cannot do that in a vacuum here at Schwab with the 26 folks. We have to rely on the 22,000 other people that work at Schwab to really help drive the success for our clients. I have this mantra that I came up with a few years back. It says, culture leads, revenue follows. It's not the other way around, right? So culture leads, revenue follows. You can't always look at the bottom line and saying, how do I increase the bottom line? You first have to ask is, what's the culture like in your branch or within your team? Are they making decisions for the benefit of others, or are they only thinking about themselves, right? Are they playing the short game or the long game? Are they making decisions for today or making a decision because they want to create a legacy, right? So culture plays such a big part of what we do. And I tell my partners, I want to be the best partner you've ever worked with, right? So when you talk to my boss or you talk to my boss's boss and they ask, who's the best partners that you're working with, I want them to think of the folks in the Portland branch, right? So one of the things that we always lead off in conversations with our partners when we're doing, let's say, a quarterly review with a internal or external partner is we go back to the 4 pillars of partnership. And it's something that I came up with that I think is that I probably read a book or a few books along the way of like, what are the 4 most important things that I can think of when we're talking about a relationship, whether it be a personal relationship or a professional one. And it came down to these 4 things. And every time I've had an issue with a partner, it comes down to we're missing one of these pillars, right? And so it gives me an opportunity to remove the emotional aspect of a particular issue and look at it in a logical way. And so the first thing that we always want to take a look at is positive intent. And so what I mean by positive intent is when you and I, let's say Shannon and I are working on a project, I'm going to always assume that Shannon is giving 150% of her energy and time to this project. I'm never going to assume that she's not doing what she needs to be doing to be successful or successful for us, right? Even though there may be moments where I may think that, I'm going to say, nope, I'm going to focus on positive intent. They're working as hard as they can. I do not know all of their circumstances. There could be a lot of other things that are going on in their lives. I'm going to assume that they're trying their hardest. Number 2, clear communication. This tends to be the number one issue when we're talking about partnerships. Again, either personal or professional. Too many times we approach a partnership and we want to talk our own language, right? We don't want to necessarily talk in their language. And I'll give you an example. Some people are really big on instant messenger work. Some people are very big on email. Some people are very big on the phone. Some people like to set up meetings for everything. So it really depends. And so your ability to be agile and flexible is going to really define whether or not you have a great partnership with somebody else. Number 3, mutual respect. Now, one of the things that I've learned at Schwab is I can have a cool title, but that really doesn't mean anything, because I've worked with people that have had different titles and they've lacked leadership, right? And so when we're together in a partnership or in a group, as far as I'm concerned, titles go right out the window, because I could care less what title you have. What I really want to understand is what your role is and how we can then mutually agree upon what success looks like. And that comes to number 4, which is common goal. Whenever you're developing a partnership, it's always important to understand what is your goal and what is my goal, and can we make sure that the goal that we're setting is mutually beneficial, right? You never want to start a relationship where the goal is off-kiltered or it's only one-sided. And there are too many times we enter in relationships, either personal or professional, that we don't discuss that, right? And so we want to go right off the bat when we're developing that relationship. Well, what is our goal in this relationship? And let's make sure that we have an agreed upon vision of what that looks like. And so that's why I put it there. I think it's so important. So again, positive intent, clear communication, mutual respect, common goal, super important. So I'll just pause right here on this page to see if anyone has any questions.
Awesome. Thanks, Eric. It's so important. I mean, those 4 things and just relationship skills in general are so important. So I'm glad that you're talking about that. We do have a question. So for students interested in financial consulting, are there any things you'd recommend for us to do now to prepare to go into the wealth management field?
Yes. Read a few books. Let's see here. There's a few books. So I always like to tell people, the finance side of our business, I can teach someone pretty quickly in 6 months. It's not super difficult. If you want to become like a CFA and you want to be an analyst, that's a different conversation. But a financial consultant is different. What I need, or what I always look for, is people with high emotional intelligence. Okay. I have known and I've worked with people that are wicked smart, and they were smarter than me, and but they couldn't carry a conversation with somebody, right? They couldn't sit there with a client that was having what I would consider a life event, right? When we talk about life event, we talk about marriage, death of a spouse, divorce, birth of a child. Can you sit down and have a conversation with someone about their overall wealth, knowing that their spouse has just passed away and they may or may not have enough wealth to accomplish the goals, right? Those are deep conversations that the best financial consultants know how to have, right? So again, it has nothing to do with stocks, bonds, cash. It has nothing to do with type of rate of return that you're going to have or what is the best thing to own right now. But it has everything to do on how to develop deep relationships with people. And it really comes down to 2 things. Can you listen really well? And can you ask really good questions? And if you noticed, it's not coming up with the best answer. That's not necessarily what I'm looking for, is can you listen really well and be empathetic, not sympathetic, with a client, right? So when we're sitting here and a client says, I have cancer and I'm concerned about not being able to take care of my family, we have to have a serious conversation of what that looks like, right? And it gets deep really fast. And as you're a financial consultant, it's so easy to be able to go from what we would consider the engaged part of a conversation to the discovery, and then saying, well, I know what the solution is best for you because this is what a book says. Most of those clients that hear that story, if you move through that process too quickly, will end up leaving because they don't feel understood. Because in the end, what clients want to know is, do you understand me, Erick? Because if you understand me, we'll be successful together. But if I feel like you're not understanding my concerns and all you're doing is placing a solution in front of me, then I feel like I'm not being heard and maybe I should go somewhere else.
Awesome. Thank you for that. It looks like that's all the questions for now. Again,
right.
If anybody has them, feel free to pop them into Q&A as we're going.
All right. So what I look for in talent. One of the things that I look for in talent, some of the questions that jump out at me is, can this person handle high volume? Things are changing on a constant basis. With Schwab, we are working with more and more clients every day. And there are going to be times where you're meeting with so many people, it can get a little overwhelming. And so your ability to engage with clients and really create that level of intimate relationship quickly is super important. And it's got to be authentic, right? That's extremely important. Another thing that I put on here, it's kind of high on the list, but would I bet my career on a person's success, right? Because I have a set of goals, metrics, they call them KPIs, key performance indicators, that I'm responsible for this branch. And I have to hire people that I believe have the desire and drive to make sure that we're hitting those metrics, right? So there's a qualitative aspect of what we do, and then there's the quantitative. Can you work independently while working with others as a team? So your ability to pivot really quickly and saying, all right, this is a time where I'm working by myself. This is a time where I'm working with my team, and I have to get them involved. And you have to be able to flip that switch pretty quickly and know when to do it. So again, there's an art to this. This isn't something you can read in a book. It's through experiences, success, and failure, right? Do they rely on others too much for their role? How do they deal with negative or positive feedback? This is a big issue with folks sometimes is sometimes you have to tell people they're doing it wrong and they need to make adjustments. And as a branch manager, that's a big part of my job. It's never a fun thing to do, but if I want them to be successful, I need to make sure they know that, number one, I care about them and I want them to be successful, and they need to change. And if they don't, then we go down a different track, right? And so every conversation that we talk about when it comes to specifically negative feedback is, I care about you, but here's my concern. I need to see an adjustment in this specific area. Are you willing to do it? Right? And then how do we get there together, shoulder to shoulder? So this isn't a burden that you're doing by yourself, but this is something we're going to make adjustments on together, and I'm going to support your success. How quickly do they pivot when asked to do so? So your ability to be flexible in certain situations is extremely important. Do they overthink or over-prepare, under-prepare, right? And again, this is something that you learn over time, but there have been times where people are setting up a meeting and all of a sudden they spend 3 hours on a meeting that took 10 minutes, and it's like, well, did you really need to do all that prep time? And did you really understand what the issue was for the client? How they handle pressure in the sales role or the support role. This job has a level of pressure, and you could say that every job has some level of pressure, but sometimes it's higher, sometimes it's lower. It depends on what role that you have, but it's just something that's there. And that's where financial consultants are compensated more than the average person, because it's definitely a free market when it comes to, it's a little bit more stressful. It's definitely harder, but also the compensation's there. And then also, do they have an ownership mindset? And when I talk about ownership mindset is, not only do they own their responsibilities, but do they own the team's responsibilities? I love to see people finish their work early, or be support for somebody else that may need help that's out of the scope of their role, and just jump into it. As a branch manager, my main responsibility, if you would ask, is like I do everything in this branch. I expect my staff to do the exact same thing, whether it's like, hey, listen, someone spilled coffee grounds in the break room. Who's going to go clean that up? I would hope to think that the first person that noticed would clean it up, right? It doesn't matter if you're a high-powered financial consultant. As far as I'm concerned, everybody owns this branch. Everyone owns the success of this branch. Can you create your own path without much direction? One of the things that I always like to see is within an individual is, do they understand how their role impacts their team, the branch, the region, branch network, and then also the bottom line, right? Being able to quickly assess how does my role impact the business is super important. Can they identify problems? One of the things that Schwab and one of the things as a leader is, I've got 26 people I've got to support. I only have so much time in the day. I have blind spots, right? I can't see everything. I have blind spots. I'm relying on my team to help me fill in those gaps along the way, to let me know if there's something wrong that I need to escalate to, and then make sure that we address it appropriately. And then also, are you willing to do what it takes to be a success as a leader in the sales or support side of things? It's not easy, and sometimes it's super challenging. But one thing that I encourage my team to do is be successful, but also fail a lot, make a ton of mistakes. And when you make mistakes, you learn from them and you make adjustments. I don't want to use the word never. Very rarely do I ever get on anyone's case about making mistakes. Because we learn from them, we make adjustments. As long as I feel like there's authenticity, I'm like, boy, I really made a mistake. And then also, what is their level of emotional intelligence? Extremely important. And then lastly, is do they have a student mindset? And when I talk about student mindset is, I've done this, I've done this now for 23 years. I still approach this business as a student, as I did when I was a junior in college, because there is so much to learn. I did get my CFP. Again, I was a student. I got my MBA. I just got another designation, which is called a Chartered Wealth Strategist. But I'm always committed to learning new things. I probably read maybe anywhere from like 2 to 3 books a month, either on like Audible, in paper, a podcast. But what I'm always trying to do is sharpen my skill set. And this is what I love about this team, is the fact that we have more designations in this branch than any other any other branch is awesome. And so what that does is it really provides positive peer pressure for other folks. So there are some folks that just came in from, let's say, some of our academies where you graduate from college, you go to an academy for 2 years, and then you come here. And then they realize, like, wow, almost everyone has their CFPs. Or people are applying for them, or people are getting their MBAs, or people are going to school for a specific certification or a designation. I better jump on that train as well. And so that's what I really like to hire is I want someone that's hungry to learn and to continue to learn, make a lot of mistakes along the way. But one of the things that I always look for is you got to be patient. Too many people want to ascend to specific roles that, to be quite frank with you, takes years to do because you need the experience, right? Even though you have a student mindset or I have a student mindset, I understand that experience, failure, and success play a very large role in what I do, and that's extremely important. So those are the things that I look for. Those are the things that kind of jump out at me as I was chatting with Shannon from a talent management standpoint. And so it's about 12:50. I kind of want to end my presentation here, but open to any questions that I can address for you.